Welcome to the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this is the place where Kingdom heirs go to be informed and inspired. So sit back, relax, and flow with me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this episode, I want to start off by first acknowledging some of the tragedies that have recently happened. It's heart-wrenching to hear about people dying. And I think just recently there's been so many things that happened, the shootings that happened in Buffalo, New York, people just shopping, buying groceries and were targeted. You have, this recent shooting massacre, 21 people killed, kids, teachers, husbands, sons and daughters. It's tough. It was tough for me to see that and just think about, those could have been my kids. That could have been my wife, a family member that was involved in the shooting. And then even, it was close to home, right in my own backyard or close to me, there was a shooting on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University that wasn't involved with the students that go to the school, but more so it was during a graduation for one of our local high schools. And there was a young man who lost his life. These are times, and I said this on Facebook, these are times where families should be celebrating people who are graduating or celebrating the end of the school year and start of the summertime. These are times you should really be enjoying. We should be enjoying. But instead, we've got families who are planning funerals and court dates and all this other stuff just because of the actions of a small group. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want everyone to know, just pray. If you pray, pray. Pray for wisdom. Pray for our leaders of this country, our government leaders, our city officials, just the leaders in the different communities, for wisdom, godly wisdom, on how we truly can change this. But we all know that God is the key, and then we just pray that He uses the right people to bring about change. I still believe in people. I believe in God wholeheartedly. I believe in God. And I know that He has a plan. Sometimes I wonder when you hear things like this. But I just pray for peace and comfort for all the families that have been involved in any violence, any shooting, any deaths, because there's too much of that going on. There's too much going on around. And it's all over. It's all communities. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing. It's not whatever you choose to associate with. It's a people thing. It's a human race thing. I get frustrated when I hear people from different sides of the political spectrum. When I hear them try to point the finger at other things. I heard there was a senator in Texas or somewhere who blamed, he in so many words blamed rap music and video games for why this shooting happened in Texas. And, and in the same breath goes back and say we got to stop finger pointing. At this point, I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on to what I want to talk about. At this point, it's time to drop all the titles. Let's sit down as people who recognize there's a problem, not try to make a political play for an office, because you want to represent this party, or this is an opportunity to show This isn't the chance for photo ops. This is an opportunity for political careers to be grown. This is time that we as a people, our leaders need to sit down and have a real candid conversation and continue to work until there is a solution. That's what's important right now. How do we change this? Is it gun control laws? Is it bringing back, more affordable mental health care coverage for folks? There's so many different things that we can do, that can be done, and there's so many ideas that are out there. But let's be realistic. Everybody wants to say take the guns off the streets. Yeah, that sounds good, but how many people are going to give up their guns? It's just like drugs. Well, drugs are illegal. You can make guns legal, but people find a way to get them. So let's figure out some other ways, because that's you're pointing the finger and saying that the gun is the problem, but it's the people that are shooting the guns that are the problem. It's the people who feel they need to use a gun. It's the people who don't have the mental capacity to function in life as it stands, but they're able to easily be triggered. Why are they easily triggered? Why aren't they? Why hasn't that been found out? Why aren't kids being able to get the kind of mental health care coverage and that they need at young ages, so that as they get older, they can cope with things of this world? There's so many things that we can talk about with this. And again, that's probably going to be another episode with some experts in the different fields, in government. And I think it's just an opportunity to really sit down and have a true discussion, because it's not about political party or race or whatever. It's truly, let's talk about some answers. So again, to the folks, to the families who are involved in these recent shootings and all the shootings and just terrible tragedies that have taken place in our country, I'm praying. I'm praying for peace, and I pray that God is truly covering you guys, keeping you safe, giving you some level of peace as you try to pick up the pieces of your lives. And I just pray that the lives that are lost, that have been lost, haven't been lost in vain. So with that, I want to go into what I came to talk about, and it's back on the mind, and this one is just called, I titled this Different Mindset, because I think it's important. I talked about the money mindset. I talked about victimized minds, a while ago, one of the episodes that focused on people not having the victim mentality, realizing you have a victim mentality and work through it. And then, the money mindset was more of just changing your thought process around money. This one is more encompassing, because I really wanted to focus on why changing your mindset will help you get the results that you want with your life. And it's important. It's very important to understand that the mind is you remember the old commercials from back in the day that was said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And the reason for that is because without the mind, that is where things happen in life. And I want to talk about this a little bit more, but that's really where you see the differences, you see change in your life. There's a quote that I read that said, once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with it. It's an internal part of you. And it once you get it set to a certain thing, set a certain way, it will drive you and drive your actions to be focused on certain things. So, let's talk about when you want to go on a weight loss journey. You look at yourself and you make up in your mind, I'm tired of looking this way. I got to do whatever it takes. And a lot of us, we exercise, we diet, or not necessarily diet, but change the way we eat, cut out certain things. We get gung ho on it, because now we finally got to the place where we were sick and tired of looking at ourselves this way. And so you have this change of your mind, but it's not a fleeting thing. It's immediately you go through this, but then you have to have consistency with it. And that's where the mindset really shifts. But it's just understanding, if you change your mindset, you change the results to it. And, really when you think about it, a mindset really makes all the difference in the world. And it kind of shapes how you see the world or how you show up in the world. And so I like to think of it as, your mindset, and this is something that I was reading. I'm taking this directly. It's a quote. But it says your mindset is the lens of how you look at things and the lens of how you perceive things. And so if you think about that, your perception, your viewpoint in your world and your how you think about it, in your area, that is your truth. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's everybody's truth, but it is your truth. This is how you think. And if you really want to, explain mindset, I kind of like the way somebody described it for me in a simple way. But the simplest way to really think about a mindset is it is your outlook. It's your worldview. It's how you look at things. It can be an expression of a belief that you really feel. And I think that's the biggest part of it because, if you realize that your mindset is really the expression of a belief, then now you know how to change your mindset. And you change your mindset by embracing the new belief. So that goes both ways. It can be a positive, it can be a negative thing, but it is how you see things. So there's some examples of mindsets that I want to go through, and it's really just going back to the idea that a mindset is a fundamental belief, and it's that fundamental belief that will shape how we see things. So here are some examples, and I think we all can relate to them, right? Of course, you have the victim mindset. And as I talked about before in the previous episode, victimized minds, victim mindset is either the world's against me or it always happens to me. And it's not just what you say, because we know there's power. There's power. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. We understand that. But it's really that it's more than just what I say. I really believe that. I really believe that I'm a victim, and we live that. Some of us live that way. And it's not a great place to be, because it's really a lack of accountability for your own actions. When people stay in that victim mindset, they never see their faults. They never see how they impacted the situation positive, in a negative way, I would say, because everything is always being done to them. They don't do anything wrong. And it's a bad thing. I mean, I was just watching a basketball game, NBA game, and, the victim mindset that a lot of players have, it's interesting. Sometimes it works. It's part of gaming the system with the referees and pleading their case and all the other good stuff. But, I mean, it's like they never do anything wrong. Every foul called against them. Oh, that was, I didn't touch him. Then there's high-tech cameras that show, well, yeah, you did. But in your mind, you believe that you didn't do it. The ref is against me, And that's a small snapshot. I mean, there's others. There's way more serious examples than that. But that's one of the mindsets, right? Then you have the hero mindset. And in that mindset, it's basically you can rise above your challenges. And it's a good mindset to have no matter what happens. I know that I'm going to have challenges. And that's important because some people, they don't even want to acknowledge that they're going to have challenge. They just want to, avoid anything that is going to bring any level of difficulty in their lives. But a hero mindset is you rise above. There's nothing that I can't rise above. If it doesn't kill me, I can make it. I can move on, and I will be fine. There's the scarcity mindset. And that mindset says there's not enough for everyone. How many of us have experienced the scarcity mindset? It can be as simple as I'm having, always looking at it, the glass half empty. That's that pessimistic viewpoint. There's not enough for all of us. And some people attack their finances. They attack they look at things and it's like, I'm always going to run out. It's not enough for us to do what we need to do. I'm going to have to keep doing this and doing that to keep things moving because there's just not going to be enough. And so and sometimes having that mindset is not a terrible thing. And I say it's not terrible because, again, sometimes that may push you, but it's kind of a false narrative to have for motivation that I'm going to run out. So I'm going to keep going out there and being greedy. That's kind of the wrong mindset to have. But again, there can be some small benefit in having that because it will make you work so that you don't have to feel that way. But again, there's some drawbacks with that. Then there's the abundance mindset, which is obviously the opposite of scarcity. There's plenty for everyone, but the more positive kicker in that is that, or will make more. And I think that part is important because there's plenty for everyone. So I'm always thinking, there's enough out there. You hear people talk about, I'm trying to get the bag, get the bag. And, and people have this hater mentality because they see somebody else doing good. And instead of praising that person or giving them respect for, grinding and hustling in a positive way to get themselves to another level, we'll just say financially. But there's more abundance, is more than finance, more than money. But as for the example, they're working hard. And instead of, some people going and saying, well, what did you do to do that? I'll be interested to find out whether you did it that way or not. Some people just don't want to find out. They're like, oh, I don't care how they made their money or what they did. And then you got people who take the time to go ask, hey, I know that you're doing very well. Could you share some of your tips or secrets, or what kinds of things did you do? And some people are like, I don't want to share that. I'm not going to tell you what I did to get here. Like money is going to run out. There's a million ways to make money. And again, I'm not saying that abundance is just that, but that's a mindset that people have. That's opposite of that scarcity mindset. They're like, I'm not telling you this. But when you have that abundance mindset, it's truly about there's plenty for everyone. And, I have faith that we'll get, if God gave us the ability to get to this place, he's going to give us the ability to continue to give, or whatever that is, if it's giving or, whatever that portion, whatever that thing is that God is blessing you with. He's not going to give you something and take it away unless you're abusing it. But if the goal is to continue that you're doing something to help build the kingdom, you're doing something to help people, you will stay living in abundance. You will never run out. So that's important to know that. This next one is interesting because I've heard this from a lot of people, and it's called the fixed mindset. It basically says, I'm born this way. Things are stuck the way they are. It is what it is. That kind of mindset. How many of us have family members or friends or people that we've been around who just say, that's just the way I am. I was born this way. I've been this way since I was a kid. Nothing's going to change me. Nothing's going to make me think any differently. That's just who I am. Accept me for who I am, or, don't be around me. And there are people who think, they are so bullheaded to think that they're above change. And when you have people like that, you have to learn to keep your distance, especially if you're always with, or you're the type of person who's very positive, and it's not necessarily a fixed mindset of somebody that's not positive, but they're going to be limited with this next example of a mindset, which is the growth mindset. See, the growth mindset is opposite, saying you can learn how to get better at something if you try. It's not about I was born this way. It's like, hey, let me shift things in a different direction. Let me change the trajectory of my life. Let me reverse the curse of something that may have gone on in my family, or that's in my history. If I have a family history that is, my immediate family, if everybody's overweight or health issues and things of that nature, let me work to change that. I've heard people say, I've been big all my life, I'm just going to be big. But do you have to be unhealthy? Are there things that you can do to help keep yourself going? I mean, again, it's about the growth process. I can get better. I can be better than I am. And so it's important to understand, you can be fixed, and when you're fixed, you're planted where you are. I'm just going to grow. I'm limiting myself. It is what it is. And that is not how God created us to be fixed, not in that way. And then the last mindset that I looked at was the agile. That sounds kind of country, but the agile mindset, which is embrace change. In the world of software development, there is a software development life cycle process that's called agile. And in agile, it's all about, things constantly moving. Nothing is the same. It's a free flowing. I won't say free flowing. There's processes, there's structure around to make sure your team is successful in how they develop whatever that thing is that they're developing. But it's always about change being constant. And we know in our lives that change is constant. There's always going to be change. There's change in technology every day. Change in the way we communicate with people. Change in the way food is served. Change in the way how food is prepared. Change in the way of our money. There's always changes. And that causes changes in our relationship and changes in how we live our day-to-day lives. So when you have an agile mindset, you have to know that change is inevitable. And you can make the choice to embrace it, or you can lock yourself, keep a fixed mindset, and just stay where you're at. And the choice is yours. The choice really is yours. But the key to go back to the key thing is really to look at each mindset and understand that each mindset is rooted in a belief. And that belief shapes how we see the world, how we show up in the world, and how we respond and react with the world. It is our way of doing things. And we have the choice. We always have a choice. But it's truly about what do you want to do. It's truly about your mind. One verse that's, scripture that is very popular is Romans 12:2. And in the English Standard Version, it's very simple. Do not be conformed to this world. And I'm talking to the kingdom heirs out there. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So even in the Bible, it talks about renewing your mind. To go away from how the world does things and views things, and focus on God, the will of God. And being able to understand that what God has, the will of God, you understand what's good and acceptable and perfect. And you'll get a level of discernment. So when you're tested, you'll know which way to go. But it's all about the renewal of your mind. It's all about, is that what you believe? Because if you believe in God, then there should be a change in the way you think, the way you act, the way you believe, the way you just talk, the way you do things. And you can have a right and a wrong mindset. I mean, let's be honest. There are things that we look at and we see people do, and we're like, man, what was that about? Why did they behave that way? You know, there will be some people that would look at the whole Will Smith and Jada situation from the Oscars. You know, some people painted Will as the victim, you know, or they looked at Jada as the victim. She had a victim mentality. And again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but, you know, some people have had that. And in an interview, she said that she felt like in a relationship she was never protected. Now, does that mean she told Will to go up there and do it? No. Maybe Will felt some kind of way. And he had a mindset of, you know, that was different than trying to grow or trying to, you know, figure out how we can rise above this. And, you know, he took things in his own hands. And obviously the victim of the situation was really Chris Rock. But even in that, he took that opportunity to talk about it. I'm talking about Chris Rock. You know, he didn't have this fixed mindset. He didn't have this victim mindset. He was like, hey, I got to go out here, do what I got to do, but I'm going to rise above. I'm going to take a hero mindset. I'm going to keep it moving. I mean, he showed that just there. He kept the show going. He was clearly shaking at a point. He wasn't expecting that, but he kept things moving. He didn't let that define him, and it's not going to define him. He was a star before that, and Will Smith will grow from this. I still like Will Smith. Did he make a mistake? Yes. And I hope that he gets all the things that he needs to get so he can be back to where he was or better than what he was. And just hearing him and hearing some of the things that he always talks about, I know that Will Smith has a growth mindset. And he embraces change. He has an agile mindset. But he made a mistake. And he's dealing with that. And so, you know, I understand that. Again, we all have made mistakes. And if you have the right mindset, you can come back from that or be better. And that's the goal, is to be better. To be better than where you were at that moment. Because obviously there's some growth that you need to do. You know, just kind of to go off into, not to go off into a tangent, but, you know, if anybody is a rap music fan, Kendrick Lamar has a new album. And, you know, people give it different reviews. But when you look at it from the lyrical content, and he's really kind of connecting in a personal way with this album, I'm a fan of his. And there are songs that, you know, I may not care about the beat. But when you listen to what he's saying, it's about growth. It's about development. Again, he's being vulnerable. But he's understanding that that's part of his growth process. That's how he changes. That's why he stands out. Because he can talk about certain things that a lot of people are afraid to talk about in the culture of the black community, the rap music industry. You know, he was talking about things that a lot of people didn't talk about, or they don't talk about publicly or on a song. So I give him a lot of respect for that, because he has a growth mindset. He's like, look, I realize that there's some things that I still am closed up on that I need to deal with. I mean, I think everybody who follows, there was a quote from one of his songs where he basically said he was confused by Kanye West and Drake, you know, coming together doing that concert, because they had just recently had this big beef, which I don't think it was that big, but, you know, again, Kendrick was of the mindset, like, why would they come back together based off of all that other stuff? They supposed to be, you know, at war. But he realized that his confusion and probably his want for there to be beef, and like, no, you ain't going to have the opinions or whatever was done on either side to say we going to stay. So that's that old school. That's the fixed mindset. Like, I don't get it. But, you know, he's looking at it from a different area now. He's like, okay, am I focus on building and growing myself? I realize that I got some more growing to do. And when you have that mindset, that is a growth mindset, because you know, I can get better. I can be better. And that is very important. Don't get fixed. I don't care how old you are. You can always learn. The minute you stop learning, or you think you're not going to learn anymore, you stop living, you stop growing. And your life kind of gets to a place where, it stops. Because you're really not living if you're not growing. None of us know everything. We've got wisdom as we get older and we learn different stuff, but you keep learning. So, just think about it. When we change how we look at things, it will change how we feel. And then when we learn that we can change how we feel, we can change how we think. And if you change how you feel and think, then you change what you do. And then when you change what you do, you change your results. So that's why it goes all back to changing your mindset changes your results. And it's important. It's very important for us to continue to grow. If our goal is to grow, if your goal is to just stay where you're at, then you've got the fixed mindset. And, sometimes that fixed mindset goes into the victim mindset, and the victim mindset goes into the scarcity mindset. And all those things are together. I think I mentioned, there was 7 mindsets that I talked about. 4 of them go together in a more positive direction, which is the hero mindset, the abundance mindset, the growth, and the agile mindset. But then when you have the victim mindset, the scarcity mindset, and the fixed mindset, they kind of go together. And they do when you think about it. When you think about it, a lot of times those are the things that kind of go with each other. When you go down that path of, negative or negativity, you get to a place of the world ain't going to change. I started off this episode by talking about just sending my prayers and just talking briefly about the tragedies that happened, over the past few weeks across the country. And just thinking about that, talking about that, and understanding that, we're not going to change the world in a day. But it starts, you always hear the cliche, it starts with you, change your mind. What can we do? How can we embrace that? Because the world, if I just think doom and gloom about the world, I probably would have never had kids. And that is the reason why some people choose not to have kids. It's not because they can't physically do it. It's not because they can't mentally handle it. They don't, or financially handle it. A lot of them, people just are feeling that way because they don't want to bring their kids into a world that they feel is so bad and so gloomy, so dark. And see, I know that there's a lot of dark days that we've seen. There's a lot of negativity that's out there. And so I can make a choice. I can choose to focus on what's negative, or I can focus on the positive, take the negative, and use my positive to change my outlook on things. To say, yes, these are tragedies, but there's still a purpose and a reason that I'm here. And there's still a purpose and a reason that everybody else is here. Because when you look at those tragedies, nobody woke up, those kids didn't wake up expecting to be a martyr. Nobody does. Nobody wakes up and says, today I'm going to lay down my life. Well, some people do, police officers and different people, bodyguards. I mean, that is something that they have to think about constantly. But most people don't wake up saying, today I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to be a martyr for, the world. Those kids just went to school on a basic day, in the school year, and to come out of that, to not come out of that alive is tough. And so everybody's hearts are heavy now. Everybody who cares, everybody's emotional. Everybody, a lot of people that I'm connected with, I've seen, different posts about the tragedies that have happened. And it does bring you down. That's human nature. If you've got a heart, it's going to happen. But if I keep myself in this place of negativity, if I keep myself in this place of doom and gloom, like, yeah, I got to think differently now. Now I got to be more intentional. When I send my kids to school, I need to hug them. I need to tell them how much I love them. You know, that's something that I should be doing anyway. Now I have to learn from that. Whenever my kids leave my presence, I normally, I drop them off. I usually tell them I love them, especially when I drop my youngest off. Not especially, but when I take him, because a lot of times, we have our routine. I always tell him I love him. Have a good day. He says I love you too. My oldest son, kind of similar thing. Have a good day. But I need to be better at making sure they know that every day I love you. Because you don't know when's the next time, or when's the last time I'll be able to tell them that. And you don't want to think on that, but it's hard not to, right? But it's also easy to focus on just that negative stuff. Well, now because of that tragedy, I don't want to send my kids to school. I'm going to keep them home and homeschool them. And people do that, and everybody has their right to do that kind of thing. But I don't want to create a household and an environment where everything is about being scared. I want my family and my kids to understand that, what happened and what has happened, and that won't be the last time things like that happen. But just to make sure they understand, hey, if situations like this come about, let's be educated. There are some things that are just random. This is why I encourage, my family to stay prayed up. I pray that nothing like that happens to anybody that I know. But it's a challenge. So again, I don't want to get back on that, because it's still tough, and it's hard not to have a thought process or have a mindset of that brings about fear, or being fixed on something, or not being willing to open up. Because those experiences will cause that. But just getting back to understanding. So how do you change your mindset? How do you change your mindset? Because there's a lot of us that want to change our mindset, but we really don't know how. I think one of the biggest things is being aware that you may have a different kind of mindset. You'll hear people say poverty mindset or being poverty minded. They always think they're going to run out. That's that scarcity mindset, right? And sometimes those things are passed down to you from, your parents, or, somebody who you were close with that was older, and maybe they were like that, and you received that from them. You were taught that, I should say, from them. Because again, understand it, if you change your mindset by changing your belief. And so the challenge is that, when you start talking about beliefs, we got to understand that we are going to get what we expect. So whether you believe you can change your beliefs or you believe you can't, you're right. I'm going to say that again. Whether you believe you can change your beliefs or you believe you can't, you are right. It goes back to the victimized minds. It goes back to the money mindset. It goes back to just mindsets in general. Whatever you believe, whether you can or can't, that is going to be the case. Again, the power of the tongue. If you believe it or you don't believe it, that is what's going to be. It's not my job. We can't change that. Especially somebody who that's pretty fixed on certain things. You can't change it. And I tell my children all the time, you can't waste your time trying to force people to change. You can't change a person. You can communicate with them and let them know something you don't like, and at least they know what that is, and they can take it and do with it what they please at that point. But, again, there's always something that comes about when we talk about really embracing a new belief, because that's the biggest thing. You gotta be willing to allow yourself to try something new or to embrace a new idea. And some of it starts with the most simplest things. I'm going to talk about food. When I was younger, there was things that I wouldn't eat because I thought it was gross, and like Brussels sprouts. Hated Brussels sprouts as a kid. And it's probably the way they were prepared. Usually they were boiled. I remember my mom had something that was like you boiled them in a bag, and the bag had some butter sauce on them or something like that. And back then, I thought that was like the worst thing. I'm eating little baby cabbages, and I used to love cabbage, but it was always prepared, in a traditional Southern style way, kind of fried with butter, onions, whatever. And my granny she would make some too. She would, break up the cabbage head, boil them, season them real good, and they tasted good. But that I didn't like Brussels sprouts. I hated them with a passion. As I got older, somebody was like, well, try it this way. So of course I had them. They were crispy and they had, bacon and little stuff in it. I was like, okay, I'll try it. Now I love them. But it was a growth. It was a change. I was willing to do that. Same thing with sushi. I always said I didn't want to try sushi. Now I love sushi. Now there's some that I've tasted and I didn't care for, but at least I'll try it. I've gotten to the place where I'm always willing to try things. I'm agile with a lot of things from a mindset perspective. Some things I won't, but it's just because I know it's something that I don't like. I'm older now, so I know a lot more about myself that I like and don't like. And so, again, when you entertain the possibility of embracing or when you entertain the possibility of embracing a new belief, you can start to think through and rationalize pretty much anything. So when you embrace a new belief, your mind is going to start to find evidence to support that. And when I'm saying this, I'm hoping that people can kind of see correlations to different things in the Bible, right? Let's think about faith. See, when you put yourself in a position of prayer, fasting, prayer, and really speaking what you believe, having it in your heart, and you see God manifest those things in your life, it's because you changed your mindset. That is, that's all about, the renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2. It always starts in the mind, and that takes in the heart and develops a spirit, a connection, and it's an internal thing. And from that, you start to see things change on the outside. Faith, seeing and believing, and understanding that this is what you believe for this, and this is what happens, and then you see God manifest those things in your life. That's how you can change your mindset. So just understanding that when we get to that point, you'll start to see the world being new all around you. And that's a great thing. The walls start coming down. You see different things. Now you're willing to start embracing those things that used to be so fixed on, and things that you were so gung-ho about, the scarcity things. And now you start to push the limits of your belief. The more you challenge your limiting beliefs, the more they start to come down. And that's important. That is very important. Because it is, the more you start to challenge the beliefs, and, the more you start to get to that place of, things are a little better. Things are getting better. I'm seeing things differently. The things that I was taught by my parents from their hurt or their abuse or things that they dealt with doesn't have to be the things that I carry on. I don't have to have that same, my mother, one of the things that, interesting story, my mother, one of the things that she used to be deathly afraid of was her kids drowning. Well, she felt like that because her brother, my uncle, passed away at a young age. He was like 18, 19 years old. He was out he had just graduated high school. I think he was going on a trip or something. And he went swimming at a lake and he got caught in the undertow and passed and drowned. And, as I got older, I was a great swimmer, still a pretty good swimmer. And my mom was so fearful of me drowning. And I didn't understand it as a kid. Because I'm like, Mom, look, I took swimming lessons. I know how to swim, blah, blah, blah. But my uncle did too. He was a lifeguard. It was a situation that he got caught in that he just couldn't get himself out of. And it wasn't because he didn't know how to swim. But that experience is what drove her to push those fears down on me. And as I got older, now I have kids, I understand that. But back then I didn't. But I didn't want to push those same fears on my children. Now, being prepared, making sure when they're doing certain things that they have the proper safety stuff on, life jackets and all that good stuff. Yeah. I remember my mom used to tell one of my friends, one of my good friends, I used to go visit and stay up in Idlewild, Michigan with him and his family. And, they had a house right off the lake and we would be on the boat and jet skis. And I get being on the boat and jet skis, having to wear the life jackets. But she told them even when I'm swimming in the water, you got to wear a life jacket. And so you can imagine here I am, 12 or so years old, and I know I can swim, and all my friends and his family are swimming, and here I am with a life jacket on trying to swim. Now, if anybody knows how to swim, it's difficult to swim with a life jacket on. Because one, you're not swimming underwater. You try to, it's going to pull you back up. It's tough. But it was just that fear that she had, and she, made sure to tell them, like, look, he can't get in the water unless he wears a life jacket. So she gave them that instruction. Of course, she gave me that instruction, and I had to do it. And they were making sure because obviously they didn't want anything bad to happen, to me. And then, with my mom telling them that, like make sure he wears a life jacket. So I thought I was lame or because I had to wear a life jacket, but I understand now. But I'm not pushing that same fear on my children because that was an accident, and accidents can happen. But I teach them about being cautious and making sure that, that they're not doing anything crazy and putting themselves in a situation in the water that's dangerous and can get them hurt. So, again, that's that fear and not passing that along and just embracing change, embracing, new mentality, a new way of doing things, but I had to understand where my mother came from in that. So that's why, again, it's important to make sure that we start really thinking about things and not allowing ourselves, having that growth mindset. I love it. I see people now, they're getting older and they're embracing their age. They're embracing the different changes in their lives. Sometimes it can be scary. It's like people who retire. It's scary because it's different. Now you're in a different stage in your life. People who are, getting into their turning 40, what, I'm embracing this. I'm embracing who I am. I'm embracing and really looking at my life in a different way. Not that I'm getting ready to die tomorrow, but now it's like I need to enjoy myself. You can't stress forever. Take on that idea of abundance and challenge the victim mindset, challenge the scarcity mindset, challenge the fixed mindset. Why am I that way? Why are you that way? Why do we think that way? Is that right? Do we feel right? I mean, to each his own. To thy own self be true. But try a different mindset. If you catch yourself, think about it. Why am I like that? Why am I scared about this? Or why am I so fixed in this way? Does that make it right? And some people just don't care. And if you don't care, then, and you're okay with where you're at, then, this message isn't for you. But a lot of us are always looking for growth. And again, growing it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with some pain. It will have some pain. So we've got to learn to cultivate a growth mindset. Adopt an abundance mindset. How do you adopt an abundance mindset? Be proactive. Be proactive. Stephen Covey. We know that he has, habits of the highly, effective people. He's got different books, planners, and all that other stuff. But that's one of the things that he talks about is habits of highly effective people. One of them is being proactive. Don't wait for things to happen. Don't wait for things to come your way. That's being reactive, waiting for something to happen and then reacting. That's the victim mindset, right? Something's happening to me. Then I react to that. And most of the time a victim is going to react to it by, not doing much. Just telling people, but not changing their environment or changing the things that are around them, or looking within to see, well, why am I being a victim? So be proactive. One of the things is begin with the end in mind. Think win-win. This isn't one of them things where you get a participation trophy. Think win-win. There should always be a solution when everybody wins. Everybody should win. It doesn't have to be, when you have an abundance mentality, there's plenty out there. There shouldn't be a loser. There shouldn't be, I'm getting over on them. Look at me. Well, you got that kind of mentality. That's the wrong mentality to have. Think win-win. Self-affirmations. That's important because you're speaking things to lift yourself up. And it's important to lift yourself up. You can say who I am. I am this. I am that. And whatever you put at the end of I am, that's what you are. So no matter if your parents or family or somebody that you're close to called you a certain thing that wasn't flattering, you don't have to accept that. But focus on your victories. Focus on affirming that you've done something tough. You're strong enough to handle this. You can do this. Talk to yourself. You should be your own pep squad. And then surround yourself with people who will be honest with you and help you in your growth, that you can trust. And that's important too. And that you can lift each other up. Practice an attitude of gratitude. That is very important, because if you're always in a level of deep gratitude, you always have this area of being thankful, and you appreciate all that you have. And when you're doing that, it cultivates more of that. You get more things that you can appreciate in life. Very important. You talk about growth mindsets. How do you cultivate a growth mindset? Well, you just got to decide. I want a growth mindset. I'm tired of being fixed. I need to change. We got to stop that they're this age, they're set in their ways. Because people that believe that, they're going to be set in their ways and they will never learn. Oh, I can't learn this technology stuff. You can learn it if you want to. You're making a choice. I'm not saying it won't be challenging, but making a choice. One of the other things to cultivate a growth mindset is focus on learning versus achievement. Don't be so focused on achieving this task, but focus more on learning along the way. I talked about that before. Enjoy the journey. Well, that's part of it, enjoying the journey, because the achievement, the goal is going to shift. The power is in that journey. And that brings you into the number 3, which is enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. The next thing is explore and expand what you are capable of. You can't have a growth mindset if you don't try to push your boundaries. That's important. Know where you can go. Know how far you can go. Physically, mentally, push yourself. Some of us are haven't grown where we should have been because we've tried to play it too safe. And we do that in everything we do. That's that scarcity. I'm going to run out. or I'm going to get sick, or I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to lose my money. And what you're doing is you're limiting yourself. So see what you really are capable of doing. Understand that the whole gift is in your growth. Everybody wants to talk about, the rewards. The rewards are cool. It's cool to get to that goal. It's cool to get there, but the real gift, the real prize is how much you grew in the process. See, everybody wants to talk about, when somebody goes through this crazy weight loss journey, they show what, the before pictures, and they show the after pictures. Everybody's all caught up like, wow, they lost so much weight. Look at them. They're totally different. But one of the things that you learn about a lot of people who go through those crazy weight loss journeys, especially when they didn't have to, they didn't do the surgeries, even with the surgeries, but just they had to also learn how to change their mind on how they eat, how they exercise, how they do things. You always notice that they seem to be happier, more sure of themselves. They're excited about what happened. They're excited. They have a different outlook on life. It's no longer doom and gloom. But they're like, I can get out. I can move around. I can, I feel like I'm not going to die. I know I'm going to live. Like, those are things but it's part of the journey. It's the growth. It's the growth. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Some people get caught up in wins or losses, but don't think about the fact that they were playing the game. They played well. They did a good job. Just somebody has to win or lose. But just because you lose doesn't mean you don't win. You learn new things and you come back in a different way. Focus on the growth. Focus on the learning, the journey. That's important. So, those are some of the things that I really wanted to chime in on. We have the abilities to really change our lives. We have it inside of us. And we have to know that. You're never too old. You're never too young. Because it's really all in your mind. Everything is in your mind. Once you get your mind in order, everything else follows. Once you say, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to try something different. But my goal is to be healthier. My goal is to have a better relationship with my family. My goal is, whatever that goal is, set your mind to it and start to do it. And then in that journey, you're going to develop and figure out so many things that by the time you get to the first goal, you're going to be a way better person than what you were. But you got to continue to seek that growth. And that's really the kingdom way. That is what being an heir is about. That is truly what being an heir is about. Continuing to grow, continuing to keep an abundance mindset, continuing to focus on things like being agile, embracing change, being a hero, that you can rise above any challenge, that there's nothing that's put in front of you that you can't handle yourself or with God. Everything that you need to be successful is already in you. It's already there. It's just a choice of, do I want to unlock it, or do I want to just stay where I am? Just let things happen to me. I'm just going to exist. No, you're supposed to live life. You're supposed to, any challenge that comes, you handle it. You live in abundance. You're growing. You stay agile to where you can embrace the change. All those things are important. But that is what the kingdom is about. Continuing to grow through the journey, relationships growing. You growing as a person. Your family growing. Businesses growing. That is what we're supposed to do. That is kingdom. That is what heirs do. So I want you all to remember, and I'm saying this to myself, the mind is very powerful. And remember, what you think is what will be. So take the motto and the mindset that I'm possible. You hear impossible, but I'm possible. See, God said he was the I am. Everything that you needed is already done. He's the I am. He is the I am he is everything. But he created in you the possibility to do anything that you desire to do. You're possible. It's not impossible. I'm possible. You are possible. We are possible. That is the kingdom mindset. That is being an heir. Don't limit yourself. Be the best person you can be and continue to grow, and you will grow. And the more you continue to grow and have that growth mindset, guess what? You'll be flowing. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I pray that this information and what I've shared will help you continue to grow, continue to be the heroes that you are, live your life in abundance, and embrace the change. And when you don't know what else to do, call on him, call on God. It's important. It's important to build that relationship because he can help you grow. He's helped so many of us grow. He's helped me grow. That's why I'm here today. That's why I am the person who I am. And I'm still learning. I'm still finding out things about myself and having to change things that I don't like. And sometimes it hurts, but the pain is worth the process of growing. So I love you guys. I pray that you all have another great rest of your time. I pray that you would take some time to pray for our country, pray for this world, pray for the families who have been impacted by violence across the world. I pray that we all are safe. Everybody who listens to this will continue to be blessed and ultimately will continue to flow. Take care, y'all. Till next time.